Well, I can go back to, I called the top of the real estate market in October of 1989, and I sold my house in Malibu that month, as a matter of fact. And I said, it's over, and they're going to get down considerably. Well, that happened. And the elitists had an opportunity between 1990 and 92 to straighten the entire economy out by having a strong recession. They refused to do that. Japan, at the same time, was in a terrible fix, and that went on for 20 years. And we called the top of the market there at 42,000. It eventually went down to about 5,000, and now it's trading a little bit higher. But that was some of the things in the old days that, if you want to call them that, I called. We even called the rally in gold in 1984-5, and then again in 1986. I think one of the best things I ever called was the increase in interest rates in 1992, where we said the 30-year would go to 8 1/16, and we hit it right on the head. Then, of course, the dot-com boom came during the late 90s, and I just stood aside and said, I'm not going to go into that madness. And in April, the second week of 2000, we called a top on the stock market. And then in June, we went in big time into the gold and silver shares and coins, because we felt this was the beginning of another bull market, and the first phase was just completed. We went from $252 an ounce on gold to $1,070 intraday. And so we made that call. We called the 9/11 type of event in November before it happened, within 33 days. We called Iraq and Iran, the conflicts. We called the top of the stock market at 14,000. We said it would go to either 7,200 or 6,600. It went to 6,600, and we thought it would go back to 8,500, and it did. In fact, it went to 10,000. We didn't pick the top on that, but we were essentially and fundamentally correct. Now I think we're looking at a return. I can't tell you the length of time right now, but we're looking at a return of the Dow downward. The time frame, hard to say, but at the moment it looks like we should see a correction down to 78 to 8,800, down somewhere in that area. Gold and silver are going to keep right on going up. Silver will break out finally from its old high, probably by the end of the year. And gold, of course, is broken out. Probably next stop is 12,1250, and then 1650, and then 2,500 to 3,000. And that 2,500 only reflects official inflation since 1980. Real inflation would put gold at $6,700. And so these are the general predictions. Incidentally, real estate's going to continue to go down because of the types of loans that are still out there and the loss of jobs. The fact that for a year the government has been writing subprime loans again, and that won't possibly bottom out until 2013, and goodness knows how long it's going to bump along the bottom. And so that's what we're looking at. We're also looking at probably a sideways movement on unemployment for several months, and then it's going to get worse again unless they dump in, and they'll need $2 trillion. And if they don't put in $2 trillion, it isn't going to work again. And so these are some of the things that I'm looking forward on.
Okay. I want to take some calls before you leave us, and we got Chris Pinto next hour getting into some information dealing with Dan Brown's book, and they're saying it's inaccurate. They've made the definitive films on the real secret societies, the Illuminati, and how they operate. Whole separate area we're going to be discussing coming up the next hour. But while we've got you, Bob, I'm shaken up by this. It's one thing to know they're going to kill the dollar and know it a decade ago and to see their plans. It's another thing to now be here in that zone where they're getting ready to stage new wars, new terror attacks. They're setting up incredible police states. I've got mainstream news articles where high-level media executives with no criminal record, known for being pure gentlemen, get up in first class and walk in front of someone who's asleep, and the stewardess yells at them and then has them arrested under the Patriot Act, and they're charged for making an ugly face. That's in the FBI affidavit. I see these articles every week now where people argue with a stewardess, so they're going to prison under the Patriot Act. I see where they're charging marijuana dealers with it. I mean, people with a half ounce. I mean, they're arresting people selling eggs on street corners in the countryside. I mean, they're SWAT teaming Amish. I mean, it's entering a vortex of evil. $100,000 fines for garage sales. I mean, I can't even believe how insane. They just came out and admitted what I knew 14 years ago, but now completely declassified, that most TV is run by the Pentagon and the White House, and the entire scripts are funded and written. I mean, we already knew it watching TV, but to be anti-family, pro-death, all these shows where they're unplugging old people, the heroes are killing people on the shows. They're convincing old women not to have cancer surgery to save money for young people. I mean, as if the pie can't grow. As if global taxes are being announced. Schwarzenegger's saying you got a thumbprint to buy guns. He's now saying they're going to ban 40-inch TVs because they're bad for the environment, but they use too much energy. I mean, all the carbon taxes, all the control, worse than the Soviet Union. When I say that, I mean, it is. Bob, it's off the charts. But before we do that, what will this look like as they incrementally, and like you said, knock the dollar down, then bring it up a little bit? You know, knock it down, bring it up a little bit. Knock it down, bring it up a little bit. Because that's the graph. And as the world now shifts with new purchases to majority euros and yens and yans and other currencies, they've now left the dollar. That's the headlines in all the financial papers. So they've begun. It's like the HAL 9000 in 2001 Space Odyssey, where he's going, "I'm afraid, Dave," and the astronaut's turning the computer's memory off, and they're turning it off. He's gone down about 10 of the memory cubes. He's got about 50 left, and you know the HAL 9000, which is America, is going, "Daisy, Daisy." You know, this is happening. And there's no way to stop these criminal bankers. They're going to get their world government. They're going to rape everybody more. We're going to pay our taxes directly to them. And no matter how big their frauds are, the police just, yes, sir, salute them. Bob, this is getting bad.
Well, I think law enforcement had better wake up, because if they keep on doing what they're doing, there is going to be a backlash. There's absolutely no question. Desperate people do desperate things. And we have desperate people in America. We have 30 million people or whatever it is unemployed. And I think the checks are going to stop very shortly in a big way. And
checks are already bouncing from the state to people in California. And we've got some bizarre Hitler Youth guy going, "I take your guns, I ban TV." I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, you're right about Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh, it makes me sick.
And they're going to continue to do this, and finally it'll snap. And then we see who's going to win. The Pentagon's not going to win because the military's not going to follow them. And I think we're going to have to join the military in helping them to combat the travesty of corruption and dictatorial government that's in Washington and Wall Street. And that's what we're going to have to deal with. These are the people who are dangerous, the crooks in the $3,000 suits. I mean, I got an article here that Paul Craig Roberts did yesterday. It's only 2 pages. The rich have stolen the economy, and he's right. It's a fabulous, very short, but fabulous article.
Well, Professor Black, who's one of the top regulators of SNL, exposing all that, and Professor Black's top game, and he said this is by an order of magnitude the greatest fraud, the greatest scam in world history, and they're just getting started.
That's right, and they just they don't even know what to do with the billions and billions of dollars that they're stealing from everybody. There's a new magazine coming up of the Financial Times, where to put all of that great amount of money that you rich people are pulling in by doing what you're doing in Wall Street, et cetera. And we have fragmented into a society where the middle class has been reduced to 5 or 10%. You have a rich cadre at the top, and everybody else is wallowing.
But isn't that like it's the wintertime and you're cold? So instead of going and getting some firewood, you just light the drapes on fire. And, this is the elite. I'll get lots of warmth if I burn the house down. And they're just masses of troops in black uniforms marching, beating their batons on their breastplates when you try to go protest the G20. And then the elite are just burning the house down going, boy, it's warm, roasting hot dogs in their own inhalation.